It is out. It is here. It is official. The New York Jets 2024 schedule released over the past couple of hours. Took a look at it. Let's talk about it, Jets fans. We'll also touch on some more Aaron Rodgers slander from more lunatics in the media because this is what they do. So the schedule, as most of you probably know by now, of course, the Monday night game to kick off the season versus San Francisco was released a couple days ago. Announced Adam Schefter put it out on Twitter, and then as we see every year, dribs and drabs, bits and pieces coming out. Some of it reliable, some of it not. Jet Nation, by the way, nice job by them. They weeks 1 through 5. Jet Nation had a source, and they got that nailed all 5 of the games. Early yesterday, I believe it was sent to me, and then it was tweeted out and put on the Jet Nation forums. Weeks 1 through 5, and the NFL folks, they want to see some Jets football late at night once again, early and often, with the night games and a very exciting trip to London. Once again, the Jets faced the Atlanta Falcons a few years ago. I was second row field level for that disaster. Zach Wilson throwing bounce passes. But the Jets get another London game. They get 6, the max. They get 6 primetime games, and they're all early in the year. Definitely all the first half of the year. They're not all early, but we'll go over it. Let's talk about it. So, San Francisco week 1. How do you feel about that? You're getting what is probably the best team on your schedule on the road week 1. I mean, you have to assume I'm not going to do wins losses because with this team I can't. I mean, listen, it's impossible to predict anyway for any team. But the Jets particularly difficult because you just don't know who's going to be healthy, which you also don't know for any team. But you just know the Jets have some serious injury concerns. Just had their quarterback miss an entire year. He's going to be 41. Have a left tackle who misses about 10, 11, 12 games a year. But last year he stayed healthy for the most part, and you're hoping that happens again. You don't know, but that's the hope. But really, this team 100% healthy. There's not a game on the schedule that's not winnable. I've talked about this, right? It's going to come down to injuries. It's going to come down to health. But with this team on paper, again, that being the key on paper, can beat anyone. If again, coaching's got to do the right game. My info, listen, it's Aaron Rodgers. You got Aaron Rodgers because he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You're not hiding Aaron Rodgers. The Jets aren't going to go through the schedule and pick games and be like, oh, that's a tough one. Let's not play Aaron. No, it's not happening. Aaron Rodgers is starting every single game that he's healthy. I don't care if it's the 85 Bears. Like that. That's why he's here. Name an NFL team that benches their Hall of Fame quarterback week 1 because they're scared. Like, you can't do that. My info. I'm sorry. Love you. I don't think we've ever really disagreed on much, but I strongly disagree with anyone saying hide Aaron Rodgers week 1. We got a tough opponent. It's not happening. But week 1, September 9th, night game, 8:15. Again, as I said, Monday Night Football. Then the Jets followed up week 2 with a trip to Tennessee to face the Titans. I've already seen that listed as a pretty popular destination. A lot of Jets fans saying that's where they're going to plan a road trip. I would in a heart. If you haven't been to Tennessee, go to Tennessee. Beautiful part of the world. Really, just from a destination standpoint, some really good spots this year. I feel like, was it last year or the year before, I went to the schedule and I was like, damn, there might be one place I want to visit. Everywhere else is like nothing. Week 3, so again, San Fran, Tennessee, week 3, home opener, again, prime time, Thursday night football. New England Patriots come to town with whoever their starting quarterback is. We'll see if it's Jacoby Brissett. We'll see if UNC, Drake May. You only said Josh Downs. I was a huge Josh Downs guy. Drake May coming into town. Again, Brissett or May, prime time. We will see Thursday night. Again, anytime this team is playing, and again, I'm not going to do the record prediction, But when they're playing a rookie quarterback or just an inexperienced guy like a Jake Locker, um, did I say Jake Locker? God, what is wrong with me right now? Um, Tennessee's got a second-year quarterback. New England's got a rookie quarterback. You could win. This defense should be able to shut down any guy who doesn't have that much experience. Week 4, you got the Denver Broncos. Now, listen, could they win 11 games? My info, they could win more than that. Again, on paper, this defense. One thing that we don't talk about enough is Hassan Reddick being an upgrade over Bryce Huff, and Jermaine Johnson hoping he takes another step. And if Will McDonald, then I know that's a big if because at least with Huff, or sorry, not with Huff, with Reddick and with Johnson, you've seen it. They can do it. If Will McDonald can be anywhere near the player they hope he can for where he was drafted, they are going to have such a ferocious defense that a healthy Aaron Rodgers, I'm not going to say they have a shot every week, but this could be a 12 plus win team. And again, I'm so tired of saying depending on their health, but I said the other day I was listening to a podcast, Peacock and Williamson, good podcast. They do a lot of draft talk. They do a lot of just talk throughout the year. And one of them said, in discussing the Jets, discussing the draft class, and then making a note on each team, he said about the Jets, they're the toughest team to gauge, to try to predict, because the Jets are very fragile, but they could also win the Super Bowl, and that's pretty much what the feeling we've had for a little while now. Is that they're so brittle, and this is the biggest gamble Joe Douglas has made this year, is the number of guys they've added who have health issues, but there's that much talent there. So the sky's the limit for what this team can do. Again, stay healthy. But there's a path. So guys, week 4, you got Denver at home. I don't think it's all that crazy. I mean, how do you feel about Jarrett Stidham? Bo Nix. Look, I like Bo Nix. I said I thought if he had a really good Senior Bowl, he could be a top 10 pick. He didn't have a really good Senior Bowl, but he went 12th. Or 12, 13, 12, 13, somewhere in that range. I think he went 12th. Jets picked 11th. Yeah. Anyway, Bo Nix could win that job at some point. But would anyone be blown away if Zach Wilson won that job? I wouldn't. Like, here's the thing with Zach. We've talked about it. There's some talent there. And he's now with an offensive-minded coach who has done some good things with quarterbacks. Not a ton. Probably, the Drew Brees thing, he was starting to develop near the tail end of his time in San Diego before he went to New Orleans. So how much credit does Peyton get for that? I mean, listen, you hear Mike Westhoff talk about Peyton, and I know he's there now, and I know he was with New Orleans previously, but if you read Mike Westhoff's book, right there, figure it out. Where is it? Right there. Mike Westhoff's book, Figure It Out. He talks about Sean Payton and talks about how he's one of the most meticulous, well-prepared coaches in the NFL. And just look at what happened with Russell Wilson last year. Now, was Russell Wilson the old Russell Wilson? No, but he more than doubled his touchdown production. And who was his offensive coordinator? Well, head coach the year before, Nate Hackett. He goes from Hackett to Peyton and looks like a completely different guy. So if Peyton works with Zach and gets him to play closer to his full potential, I know a million people have given up on Zach, and that's fine. I still see the talent there. It's a matter of harnessing it and developing it. If Peyton does that, would anyone be shocked if Zach Wilson is starting week 4? I think that would be hilarious. A loss would not be hilarious, but it'd be funny if Zach played well enough that the Jets have to answer after the game, why'd Zach never look that good for you guys? I want a Jets win, but I don't hate Zach as much. Listen, I don't. Only time I really truly dislike a player is if the effort's not there. If you can look at the guy and say, like, that guy's not, like, when fans get mad at a guy, oh, I can't believe we drafted this guy. Look at him, he sucks. He's this, he's that. Players are what they are in terms of their talent. If the team messes up and they overdraft him or they don't develop him, but the guy's busting his ass, I don't get mad at the guy. So Zach Wilson and the Broncos come to town week 4. Who the starting quarterback is, we will see. Remember, Bo Nix is 1,000,000 years old and has 10,000 college starts. He might be ready in a hurry, but we'll see about that. Then the following week, the Jets fly out here to London. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is, in my mind, the most incredible stadium I've ever been to. Absolutely phenomenal. Nightmare getting out there. I'm planning on going. We'll see when the time comes because tickets are not easy to come by. So that's week 5, Minnesota. Perhaps Sam Darnold. Imagine you get Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold back-to-back weeks. That'd be kind of wild. Minnesota, again, that's 9:30 Eastern, 9:30 U.S. kickoff time with the Vikings across the pond. Following week, another Monday night. And by the way, the New England game I didn't mention. New England is a Thursday night game, week 3. Then you've got week 6, the Buffalo Bills at home, another Monday night game. Deion Dawkins back on Good Morning Football, was it? Doesn't like the Jets because they talk trash to Josh Allen. This makes Deion sad. Because Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the NFL, because everyone has to say that their guy is the best quarterback in the NFL. Josh Allen's not the best quarterback. And you look at Josh Allen against the Jets, he hasn't been that good. Like that, he's one of the guys the Jets can talk trash to. I think he's around 500. Not you stack. Look at Josh Allen's production against the Jets versus the rest of the NFL on a game, year by year basis. The Jets got to have his number. So, but Deion Dawkins doesn't like the Jets. I'm sure the Jets are losing tons of sleep over this. And that's what the Jets have Monday, but that'll be a storyline that Michael Clemens versus Deion Dawkins will be fun. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, we all hope he gets smoked for a few sacks. But listen, give credit where it's due. Deion Dawkins is a very good player. Just not a very good person. But listen, that's okay. There's lots of guys in the NFL who aren't good people. After the Bills, you've got the Pittsburgh Steelers on the 20th. Again, another primetime game, 8 p.m. or 8:20 p.m. So that's 1, 2, 3. That's 4 primetime games in the first 5 weeks. And then the following week, the Jets go up to New England to take on the Patriots again. This one a few days shy of Halloween, 27 October, 1 p.m. kickoff. I think that's the third 1 p.m. game of the year. So Tennessee is 1 o'clock, Denver's 1 o'clock. A couple more primetime games. Then New England at 1 o'clock in New England. The 31st, you play Houston at home. That'll be a good one. See if Stroud, if he continues his role that he had as a rookie, or if there's some type of sophomore slump. Charles says he looked good the first week against Buffalo, and officials cost us a game in KC. He needs to get it right. Okay, so he's talking about Zach. But Zach's got to get a lot of things right. He's got to get his footwork, his mechanics, he's got to settle down in the pocket. Zach's got to fix a lot of things, but he is now with a guy in Peyton who people feel, can do that for him. But back to the schedule here. So Houston, because CJ Stroud continue playing, and it's another primetime game. So you've got a primetime game against Houston. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. That is your 5th primetime game in the first 9 weeks of the season. Week 10, not a primetime game, but it is a late kickoff at Arizona. Week 10, 4:25 kickoff. Week 11, another primetime game. The 17th versus Indy at 8:20. And that is week 11 as the Jets roll into the bye. And then after the bye, well, they've got 5 1 p.m. games, but don't be surprised if the Jets are playing well. Some of those, can they flip? I remember reading last year, I could be wrong, but the teams can get flexed, or I think somebody may have gotten that wrong. I think somebody said the Jets might get flexed, but they'd already had the max. So I won't pretend I'm 100% up to date on that, because there was some conflicting reports last year that I can recall. Some people saying they might get flexed, others say they wouldn't, and then folks coming out and saying they can't get flexed. So we'll see. But all of these, the final 5 games, all scheduled for 1 p.m. kickoff. December 1st, Geno Smith comes back to New York to play the Jets as the Seahawks come to town. Nobody disliked Geno Smith more than I did, but you can't deny that it's a pretty damn cool story that guy, granted he needed 6 years off, but he got his act together and played some really good football. So kind of kind of speaks to what guys can do with hard work and turn things around. Because he was nowhere near the quarterback he was as a member of the Jets over his first few seasons. Just turnover machine. Obviously not a good leader. Good leaders don't get beaten up in their own locker rooms. Um, but Geno turned it around. Then at Miami, December 12th, which is nice. Instead of playing in the billion-degree weather in Miami, you should be a nice chilled evening. Down in Miami. Let's see, you've got, they're another team. They may not have the long injury history, but until Tua has a couple of years where he doesn't miss significant time, that's always going to be a question. And by the way, how about pay that man, Miami? I mean, come on, Jared Goff just got what, 53 million? If I'm Tua, I'm like, hey man, I need 65 million. Let's make that happen, Dolphins. Tua, 70 million even. Go for it. Let's see. Gus, how we doing, buddy? I don't even know what time it is, Gus. Good morning to you. It's 2:30 in the morning. I had no idea. Crazy schedule, crazy work schedule. Took a nap. I know. If you would have told me it was 6 a.m. right now, I would have believed you. But it's 2:30 apparently. So that's Miami. Again, in Miami, December 12th. They follow that up on the, let's see. That must, no, I must have, I don't, then they have Jacksonville after that. Yeah, Miami then at Jacksonville, at Miami at Jacksonville. Do you stay in Florida? I mean, it's only a couple hour flight home. And you just zip, not like you're waiting, for, with the regular people to get on your flight. You can probably be back in Jersey and, within 4 or 5 hours of the game ending. But we'll see. At Miami, then at Jacksonville the following week. Final 2 games of the season. Final home game comes week 16. The Rams on the 22nd of December. And then wrapping up the season against Deion Dawkins and the Bills. And listen, if nothing else, Deion Dawkins has made this game more interesting. More people will watch than would have watched otherwise. And I'm trying to think, they must have, I've already forgotten. Yeah, I was going to say, the league, after what Deion Dawkins said, you have to give the Jets and Bills a primetime game. That's going to get good ratings because people are going to pump the hell out of those Deion Dawkins clips. How much he hates the Jets, and I think he said they were bitches or something, and whatever it was. I mean, it was a childish rant, but there are fans who love that stuff. So Deion Dawkins, if nothing else, drummed up some additional interest for that game. So the league will appreciate that. And again, they give him a London game. I'm not doing a record. Listen, 12 plus wins if this team stays healthy. There's my prediction for the record. Listen, you're always going to win a game you shouldn't, although I would argue there's not a game. The closest thing to a game on this schedule that the Jets shouldn't win is week 1. That's it. Like outside of week 1, I don't look at anybody and say, oh, they can't win that game. And even week 1, that game, what makes that one interesting is the fact that, with Kyle Shanahan being the offensive mind he is, he's going to have a lot of time to plan for the Jets. And the Jets are going to face a quarterback in Brock Purdy who, listen, he's physically limited, but I still don't think he gets the respect he deserves as a quarterback. I think a lot of people have questioned him from the moment he got that starting job. But listen, when you perform and perform and perform and perform, at some point you just got to say, oh, maybe this guy's good. Like maybe this guy's just a good player, even if, let's move this out of the way. Maybe this guy's a good player, even if a lot of people think he's not. And I think Brock Purdy is in that territory. But other than that, I don't look at a single game and say, oh, that team is way better than the Jets. The Jets don't have a shot there. They got a shot every week, but we don't know who's going to get hurt. You're going to have weeks. You're going to have times when when we've seen it a lot with Robert Saleh, right? How many times have we seen this team just come out flat? And that's something that's on Saleh, and he's going to have to get that rectified. You know, um, real quick, I talked a few weeks ago, however long ago. It really is getting old and ridiculous and stupid. I'm trying to find it because okay, I think I don't know who he writes for. And this is how insane we are as a society. Thank God for football. Because I don't know about you guys. I stopped watching the news a long time ago. You get news, it pops up on your feed, you get headlines, but everything is so toxic and dumb. We got another dumb take here. Let's see. Gus, good time to play San Fran. No tape on either team. Very true. I mean, of course, the funny thing is the two coaches work together, right? So they know each other well. But your point still stands. Neither team is going to show much in the preseason. They're gonna try to do. I'm sure they're going to try to do some things that, as you would, against anybody, you want to have some unpredictability, some wrinkles. So will the Jets do that? But this Jets defense, man, like I said, with Reddick, with JJ, with Quinnen, with McDonald, with those guys up front and these corners and these guys are healthy. There's not a team I look at and go, oh, the Jets are gonna have a hard time slowing that offense down. And that's not to say they won't have some bad weeks. They probably will. Like I said, there will be weeks when they come out flat because that happens a lot with Robert Saleh's teams. But either way, back to another lunatic take. We literally have guys in the NFL committing violent crimes, beating up women, driving a million miles an hour down the highway. You had a woman burned to death in her car. Oh, I guess Ruggs isn't in the NFL anymore, so I guess he wouldn't count. But who does he write for? And I hate giving out names, but this stuff is just all right. So Fox Sports, for whatever that's worth, Ralph Vacchiano. This is quite a battle the last few days with Aaron Rodgers and Harrison Butker for worst person in the NFL. And even worse than Rodgers. Rodgers did an interview with Fox. Well, it wasn't Fox. It was Tucker Carlson, who worked for Fox in the past, I guess. I haven't watched it. I probably will because it's Rodgers, and I want to see if he says something interesting. I said before that when Rodgers did Joe Rogan, the first show, I think it was the first one I thought was good, and the second one was like, it wasn't that good. Like I'm not such a homer that I'm gonna love every single thing a guy says because he plays for the team I root for. So I've watched 2 long form interviews with Rodgers. One was good, one wasn't. And apparently he did another one with Tucker Carlson that I'll try to watch at some point. But he says Harrison Butker and Aaron Rodgers are the 2 worst people in the NFL right now. Again, this in a league where you got dudes beating up women and driving a million miles an hour. What did Harrison Butker do that makes him one of the worst people in the NFL right now? He gave a college commencement speech where he encouraged men to be confident. Like, be comfortable in your masculinity. That qualifies you now for being one of the worst person for being the worst person in the NFL. You told young men to be confident and believe in themselves. You monster. You're the worst person in the NFL. You should be meek and fragile and cry. And these people are so it's like the media is just trolling at this point. Like, oh, let's pick a guy who did nothing wrong, committed no crime, and just basically said be confident in yourself as a man, and we're gonna say that makes you the worst person in the NFL. Again, I don't know what Rodgers said on the Tucker interview. Actually, I take that back. I know one quote because as Gus reminded me here, Dov Kleiman, and I used to defend Dov Kleiman because to me, Dov was a guy who he just aggregated news. He would retweet stuff. And maybe he did it before and I didn't notice it, but I never noticed him like interjecting much of an opinion. And if he did, wasn't done in a way that stood out to me. But so Rogers did this interview on it's a YouTube show, I believe. It's a Twitter show. Tucker Carlson, I believe, is only on Twitter now. Fox fired him or he quit. Um, Rogers was talking about former NFL safety Pat Tillman, who, as we all know, joined the Army after 9/11 and was killed in a friendly fire incident by his fellow Army. Uh, nearly said comrades. That's a little bit of a contradiction. But guys in his fire team ended up killing Pat Tillman, and the Army did try to cover it up. Like, all this stuff is known. And while Rogers was talking about it, he cited some things that happened with the cover up and everything with Pat Tillman. And it came from a book. Like, it was a well-known incident. Well known enough that a book was written about it. Rogers read the book and was talking about it. He's like, "Oh, in the book, they point out that Tillman, was killed in a friendly fire incident, and the Army, tried to hide his journal," which that was the only part I hadn't heard before. I hadn't heard that piece. But everything Rogers said, I'd heard reported previously, years ago. And Dove Kleiman sends out this tweet quoting Rogers and says, Aaron Rodgers claims Pat Tillman, blah, 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 friendly fire, and whatever, everything he said about. And I watched the clip, and Rodgers says specifically that, oh, yeah, it's in the book. We who fight bravely, men who fight bravely, something like that. And Rodgers names the book and then tells Carlson what's in the book. So that's not making a claim. That's having a conversation about a book where somebody else made a claim. A best-selling author, by the way, who researched and wrote the book. That'd be like if you're sitting down with somebody and you start talking about your favorite book. Like, let's say your favorite book is Animal Farm. And you're like, oh, yeah, at the end, some animals are more equal than others. And the person you're talking to is like, why would you say that? Like, no, I'm not saying that. The book says that. It's a really cool line at the end that sends the whole overall message. Some animals are more equal than others. I can't believe you believe that. No, I don't believe that. We're talking about a book here, and I'm telling you a part of the book and what it says. Like, so I don't know if people like Dove no, he's done this before, so he knows what he's doing. Clearly another anti-Rodgers guy, but it just, let's see. And Gus says here, which doesn't surprise me at all. People retweeting Gus' tweet without actually seeing the clip made it worse. And that's the world we live in, folks. Things you say don't have to be true. They just have to make people mad or happy. If I really disagree or if I really don't, if you're saying what I want to hear, I don't care if it's true or not. I'm going to retweet it and I'm going to say, oh, Aaron Rodgers, another conspiracy theory from Aaron Rodgers. No, it's Aaron Rodgers discussing an actual event that occurred. And I don't want Rodgers as my QB. Yeah, all these people. Aaron Rodgers, he reads books and talks about them. I don't want him. Get him off my team. He's a reader of literature. Let's see, Katie. It's funny to troll Rodgers now. Jets get more attention now that he's with the Jets. Very true. A lot of it. I mean, that if nothing else, man. Listen, obviously, I want the Jets to win a Super Bowl, and that's been the case for over 30 years now. But Jesus, would I love to see Aaron Rodgers hoisting a Lombardi Trophy, and all these people trying to explain it away. They'd be talking about how he had nothing to do with it, and they would do everything they could, to not have to say Aaron Rodgers was just awesome this year and had a great season and he won another Super Bowl. It would be problematic. We'd have to talk about is it problematic that Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl? Should the NFL start banning players who say things that the media disagrees with? There are countries, well, I'm not going to get into that, but there's a country not very far from England that just passed some laws, I guess, about being able to put you in jail if the government doesn't like something you say, which is wild. because that was like never a thing in free countries. But it is now. That's 2024. We'll get the hell out of the woods on that topic. But just pointing out the insanity of people like, who was it? Was it Ralph Vacchiano? Right, yeah, Ralph Vacchiano. Aaron Rodgers is one of the worst people in the NFL because he talked about a book, and Harrison Butker is also one of the worst people in the NFL because he said men should be confident, and be like proud of the man you are. Crazy times, folks. Crazy times. I'm sure there are people in his circle of friends that love that, and that's what they want to hear. But it's insanity, and for a league that has the issues they have, these are the worst guys in the NFL. I wish those were the worst guys in the NFL, because that would mean the NFL had eradicated all of the genuinely bad people. Because listen, the NFL is like any other group, organization, business. There are some not good people in them. Well, we talked about it yesterday. Saying not good people. I shouldn't say not good people. People who are not good at their jobs. The Hackett story was a big deal. Chris Schubert, Dylan Terman were slated to be on. Chris had a last minute schedule change. Dylan's on an IR hiatus, whatever you want to call it. Hoping to be back soon. Message with him yesterday. He's got a lot going on, so he's trying to get back with us. Hopefully by next week. We'll see what happens there. But Dylan's still with us. Chris is still with us. Chris is, like I said, had a family thing that came up, and he's not here. Obviously, we were actually just chatting on our group chat a few minutes ago. They like the schedule, by the way. They like the Jets' chances. Chris, I know, said he thinks he sees a loss in San Francisco, followed by 4 wins. And then you got the Bills at home, and then at Pittsburgh. So both prime time, some tough games. And listen, the Jets aren't used to this. 2 years in a row. And yeah, and Gus says here, and I made this point a couple weeks ago, Gus. I think it was with the last Dove Kleiman tweet. Says literally everything we were told that Rodgers was just isn't true. He's been the consummate pro since he's absolutely. And all this, like, people like, oh, I thought Aaron Rodgers said limit distractions. He didn't say don't talk this entire offseason. Like, there's nothing happening right now. Aaron Rodgers, I think he knows the offense. I think he's good. But there's no practice right now. So if you thought Aaron Rodgers, when he said we got to limit distractions, if you thought that meant he was going to get in his car and go home and sit in his living room until August, I don't know what's wrong with you. He's going to talk. And people talk like Aaron Rodgers does an interview every 10 minutes. He'll do 2, 3, 4 interviews over the course of 6 months. And people like, oh, here he goes again, talking about things. Yeah, so what? So what? Yeah, Gus, lots of late nights. That's the thing in the UK, man. These late night games, folks, 1:30 a.m. kickoffs are not fun. But they'll be fun if you're good. Right? Last year, they got all the late games, and then the team stunk, so the late games were not fun. This year, everybody stays healthy. If they win, I don't care if I stayed up till 5 in the morning to watch the game. But when they stink, let's see. Can you imagine how differently we'd be talking about the Jets if they had Derek Carr? They wouldn't. Well, we wouldn't be talking about them as much because he's not as polarizing. But honestly, this team with Carr, I mean, look at and I'm not gonna do any revisionist history stuff here. I wanted Carr when he was out there because Carr meant you kept your picks, and Carr meant you had a guy for 5 or 6 years. Whereas with Rodgers, you were giving up picks, and that was at a time where he was coming off the well. Maybe I was 90% retired, so you're like, Jesus, you might be getting this guy for 1 or 2 years. And having known decades of quarterback purgatory, and that's probably putting it kindly. It was quarterback hell. It wasn't purgatory from much of the last few decades. I'm not going to pretend I didn't say give me Derek Carr for 5, 6, 7 years over 1 year, maybe 2 of Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, the Jets wouldn't be getting as much pub, and Carr's a polarizing guy. I mean, he has played for some very bad coaches on some very bad teams, and his production has not been bad considering it's actually been pretty damn good. But where he does hurt himself is that, and you saw this a few times last year with New Orleans. Um, Too many times he starts slow. You can't be down 27-3 and then score a few touchdowns. Um, and lose the game. But at the same time, it works for Carr in that he's clearly a second half guy. More fourth quarter comebacks than any other QB in the league since he entered the league. And again, these are playing mostly bad teams. Last year with the Saints, I know he was hurt a lot, but still, the Saints, I feel like they should have made the playoffs, and maybe they do this year. Who knows? But yeah, it would listen. It'd be a much different narrative around the Jets. They wouldn't be getting talked about as much. But like, put Derek Carr on this team now. I think you're a playoff team. Healthy Aaron Rodgers, you're absolutely a playoff team. So glad he went to the NFC South. Yeah, listen, I was disappointed at the time. And who knows where the Jets would be right now if they had Carr and they had the picks they gave away in the Rodgers deal. If you add a couple second rounders on this roster, where this year and last, where are you sitting? Who knows? But doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You got Aaron. People hate Aaron because, like I said, he wouldn't get their shot. But I have no problem with that. I don't think I should be telling anybody what medication to take. I'm not a doctor, and even if even if you're a doctor, you're not his doctor. Like that's, we hear it with medicine all the time, right? That's between you and your doctor. You talk to your doctor and decide what's right for you. And that's what he did. And people didn't like that because they just wanted him to do what they said. So people like Ralph Vacchiano, these are very unserious people. Granted, he's got a billion followers on Twitter because he's on Fox, which is fine. There's bad takes on Twitter all the time. And yeah, saying that telling people to be confident and talking about books, um, I guess in the minds of some people qualifies you as the worst guy in the NFL. So that'll wrap this one up, folks. Schedule is out. Book your tickets, book your flights, book your hotels. For those of you who will be traveling, I don't know that I will be. I mean, put it this way, folks. Last time the Jets were in London, I went solo, but I told the kids, next time the Jets come, you'll be a little older. We'll all go together. Since then, in case you hadn't noticed, cost of living's gone up a little bit. I'm 2 hours outside of London. Got to get a hotel. Not doing a full day and driving home. Battling London traffic to get home. So you're probably looking at a couple grand. In all honesty, if you want to get because I'm not going to get a hotel. Going to get 2 nights in a hotel if I go. I'll get the Saturday night, wake up Saturday morning, get ready, go to the game, and then Sunday night after the game have a hotel. So you're talking 2 nights in a London hotel and 4 tickets to an NFL game, which the odds of getting them face value are 1 in a million. You're talking a couple grand for a 3-hour football game that they might lose. But they're not losing that game. Again, as long as they're healthy. Whether it's Darnold, whether it's McCarthy, this Jets defense, you can't lose that game. Can't allow my Gus has Airbnb. I don't know, Gus. I've had some perfectly fine experiences with Airbnb, and I've had some shady ones too. I had a shady one in London once actually. So yeah, I don't know, but it might be worth taking a look. To be honest, maybe an Airbnb near Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We shall see. But that'll wrap this up. Like I said, schedule's out. Make your plans. Get to games. Hopefully see lots and lots of Jets wins in 2024. Have a good one, Jets fans.